Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Wes for Show here, bringing you another huge rant video about MMOs and Revelation Online. This one titled, Why People Are Not Excited About Revelation Online. Now, before you click off, before you get mad, this is not viewing the game from a negative aspect. This is covering the reasons why people are kind of worried about another Eastern MMO coming to the West, or Revelation having pay-to-win options in China and coming to the East and seeing if it's going to be pay-to-win or not. Like, this addresses all of that. So I will not be projecting negative opinions over the game or biased opinions over the game necessarily. It is my opinion, so it already is subjective in its own right, but I will not be like putting the game down or bashing it or anything like that, just because it's useless and it's not going to help anything. But I will give constructive criticism where it is due if it is necessary. But anyways, I would like to ask if you guys could help me hit that 50 like goal. The reason why I do these like goals, guys, is because it helps me know that you enjoy this type of content so that I can know to produce more of it in the future. So if you hit the goals, it tells me, hey, we like this. Keep doing it. And so I do it. That's really the only reason I do these goals. So if you do enjoy it, please leave a like. And also comment and discuss at the end of this video. But anyways, Revelation. So the game is developed by NetEase. You guys are probably familiar with them by now. They are the owners of Blizzard Entertainment in China. So they kind of oversee the World of Warcraft and all of these Blizzard games in China. So the game itself is a AAA title. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be some like underscale MMO like Tibia or MapleStory, just some random nobody's MMO, when it's a legit official game, just like Ion, just like World of Warcraft, just like Blade and Soul. It's one of those official kinds of games. And a lot of people, speaking of Blade and Soul, a lot of people project their opinions of Blade and Soul over Revelation, thinking it's going to be a similar or the same game. Now, the thing is, the game is actually nothing like Blade and Soul. The only similarities, and I can completely agree with this, is the overall theme, atmosphere, and even some of the PvP. Because the animations look very similar, the art style looks very similar, the way you run around in the world looks very similar. The world itself is the exact same Eastern Asian style theme as Blade and Soul is, so it looks almost identical. But it is a very, very separate game, and it is not necessarily going to be PvP focused. A lot of people are thinking, okay, Revelation, PvP, and they associate this huge PvP only mindset about the game, which I think has to do a lot with people projecting Blade and Soul opinions over the game. Now, I will say Revelation does have a ton of PvP content options, which I did discuss in another video, so shameless plug, so go check that out if you haven't. But there are tons of PvP options, man, and with that being said, like, I really don't know how they're going to balance it. It probably won't be the most balanced thing in the world, but it is an MMO, and MMOs aren't balanced like MOBAs are or like RTSs. It's not. You can't really give a game like this that kind of balancing unless you take the direction of Blade and Soul and knowing that it's only 1v1s and 3v3s, and you kind of balance it in accord with that. But Revelation it's not the case. You have like these massive castle sieges, you have battlegrounds and arenas and open world PvPvE zones and all kinds of stuff. Guild versus guild instances. Like, there's so many types that there's really, it's going to be difficult to balance it, and I'm interested to see how that pans out. But there is just as much PvE content as there is PvP content in the game, giving us raids, giving us all the dungeons, giving us multiple tiers and difficulties of raids and dungeons, giving us different player group numbers to work with, whether it's 5, whether it's a solo dungeon, whether it's a 40-man raid. There's so many different options, and then you can play it on divine mode and hard mode, and it makes it difficult, and you get better loot if you can handle it. So there's a lot of replayability and reward for doing PvE. And there's also a lot of stuff in open world that you can do, especially when it comes to crafting, because crafting gear is basically the best gear. I love that. I don't know about you guys, but in MMOs, this is one thing that frustrates me to death, is when MMOs do not have a great crafting system. Like, it's as if most MMOs just, they kind of implement it because they've seen it done before, but they completely neglect it. Like, they don't even make crafting fun or worthwhile. It's kind of just the same thing with a different, style on it. So hopefully Revelation, as far as like gathering and stuff, is somewhat more entertaining, but I just like the fact that it's more rewarding, because in World of Warcraft you craft, and wow, craft, I feel like I said it like 5 times in a row there. In World of Warcraft, there is a crafting system, but when I play that game, it's as if I don't even need to. Like, it's almost as if crafting is irrelevant, because I do, PvP and dungeons. Like, I don't really use any of the stuff that you get from crafting. Now, I know in Warlords of Draenor, there was a big thing with it being involved in garrisons, and you could get certain equips and all kinds of stuff, but there's really, like, it's almost as if it just doesn't even feel necessary to craft, and I want it to feel necessary to craft. I want to receive something worthwhile if I decide to invest my time in crafting in order to produce something and get to the level cap of crafting. Like, I want it to mean something and actually do something for my good if I invest all of that in there. That's one of the reasons I play smaller games and why I enjoy most of the non-mainstream MMOs, at least in my childhood and growing up and recently. Like, right now I play Dofus Touch a lot, and it's most of you guys watching this probably have no idea what that game is, but the profession system in it is just flawless. It's like RuneScape to an extent. Like, it just feels so fun. It's a whole new aspect to the game and the way it can be played. And so I just love crafting. I love excellent crafting systems implemented in a good, solid, polished MMO, period. And I hope Revelation can capture that. But the gear being pretty much the best gear you can get coming from crafting, and you have to get item drops from dungeons and raids, and then you craft the gear off of it, I am enthralled by that idea. It is exciting to me. It fires me up, if you can't tell by how I'm saying this stuff. So we'll see how it happens, especially when the beta comes out, and we'll kind of get a little taste about what it looks like, you know what I'm saying? But crafting. So yeah, so there are just as much PvE options as there are PvP options. And another shameless plug, I do have a PvE content overview video. I'll plug that in on the screen as well. But make sure to go watch that if you don't know what the stuff is already. But yeah, so, man, my.com is the publisher. This is the elephant in the room. Matter of fact, it's pretty much the main thing that everyone notices first when they're like, oh, Revelation, what game is that? And then they're like, oh, my.com, that's what it is. And then they just cut it off from there. Or they'll do some research into it and they don't want to get their hopes up, or they're going to wait patiently and see what happens, maybe play the beta. They're not going to buy Founders Packs just yet, but they'll kind of see what the game looks like, and then they may jump into it if they can trust the publishers, which I respect that. I completely respect that viewpoint and that take on the situation, because it's respectful, and it's also like, you know, we can honor everyone, we can give people our respect and love people even if we don't agree with them, but that doesn't mean they have to have our trust. So you can set up boundaries. This is like a really deep life metaphor, I'm not gonna lie, but you can set up boundaries there. We've been hurt in the past by numerous Eastern MMOs that have done this same thing, or we see games like Terra Online that for some reason they just don't feel, to me, this is my personal opinion, they do not feel as polished or well-rounded as a game like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14. There's something about it just having a free-to-play system with a cash shop and there's all these weird items, like it just makes it feel kind of clunky. To me, anyways. It doesn't feel as polished. And so we're seeing another game just like that come over here, and we don't really know their business model, but they're like promising us some exciting things, and it's like, well, is it going to be like Blade and Soul? Is it going to be like Black Desert? Is it going to be like Terra Online? Are we going to witness this again? And so I respectfully respect those boundaries that you have set up to wait and see what happens and then play the game. I'm actually in the same boat. The only reason I will buy a Founders Pack, if necessary, if I don't get a beta key, is just to get to beta key and to be able to keep doing content, because a lot of people on my channel love Revelation and I'm excited for the game and I want to get my hands on it. I may play it for a week or two and realize that the game isn't even for me, but we won't know until it happens. So I would love to get in early and just be able to make content that early in, and that's why I'm probably going to buy a Founders Pack if I am not able to get a key before the November 3rd beta releases. Closed beta test 1. So, man, My.com. They did it with Skyforge. They did it with a numerous amount of other games that I'm honestly not familiar with any of those games. I've never played them. I haven't even seen them. I don't even know really what the heck their other games are. But people who have played those games apparently have been hurt by pay-to-win systems being implemented into them because of publishers like My.com. And a lot of people make associations with My.com, and they compare them to someone like Tryon, who did the same thing with ArcAge. It is Tryon, right? I really hope I said that accurately. We'll see. But they make these comparisons that they're going to ruin the game, just like Tryon ruined ArcAge. And man, ArcAge, that's another Eastern MMO that kind of flopped after a while because of pay-to-win systems. So no one likes a pay-to-win MMO. I mean, period. There's really nothing satisfying about a pay-to-win MMO. So if they sell stuff that you can buy, the closest thing I can think of that people will still kind of play is if you can earn the exact same things that you could possibly buy with real money. If you can earn them in-game just by grinding for a short period of time, you can get the same things, but it's just less efficient or less quick, if that makes sense, which reminds me of MapleStory. You know how you could cube your gear and get potentials, and you can kind of shortcut a little bit, but you had to pay a lot of real life money to make it happen. And people weren't really upset about it until recently. It's kind of taken a whole new thing, and they did a reboot server, and all kinds of stuff happened there. And of course, in Dofus Touch, you can buy you can basically buy stuff with your cash and then transfer it over to in-game currency or buy things in there. But really, it's not even that big of a deal because it's more satisfying to grind it anyway, so half the people don't even do it. But the option's there if it's necessary. So, you know, systems like that are still iffy, but people just don't like pay to win. There's nothing satisfying about pay to win. There's absolutely nothing satisfying. I don't know how businesses and companies decide that a pay to win scheme is going to help them financially or like have lasting longevity with players. I don't know how they decide to implement a system like that, but it just completely baffles me from a player's perspective why anyone would do that when you see the most successful titles have nothing to do with that kind of system whatsoever. They're like the farthest thing from it, but these companies are like, it's almost as if we're on our last straw and we have to make a big drastic change, and that's the last thing they can do to make enough money off of that game to keep going. Like, I don't know what the business decision is, but that's why I'm not called into that career and why I do what I do instead, I guess. I really just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense, and it frustrates me that MMOs keep doing this. It really frustrates me because ArcAge could have been an absolutely 100% brilliant game, and I know with the 3.0 coming out, they're making the fresh start servers, and people are really excited about it to kind of reverse the mistakes that they made. I like that decision. We'll see how it goes. I want to jump into it and experiment with it a little bit because I didn't actually play ArcAge. I played it to like level 20, and that was about it because by the time I got there, I heard about the pay-to-win stuff, and it started being released, and I was like, oh, well, I'm jumping off as well. So ArcAge could have been great. Blade and Soul could have been an amazing game, but that one kind of flopped. I really don't know if that one went pay to win or anything, so I don't want to like talk out of my butt there, but that game kind of flopped because people realized at least that it was strictly arenas, and it was kind of like a fighting game with MMO slapped on top of it, so you had to level up to level cap, and then you do basically Smash Brothers or Street Fighter. Like, that's what it felt like to me anyways, and it's a good game. I mean, it's a fun and great game, but it's not really like massively multiplayer online. You know, it's not an immersive world. It's more just like a fighting game with MMO slapped on it, in my opinion. But that could have been a good game. Black Desert could have been a wonderful game. Matter of fact, it was an incredibly awesome game. And then they start adding these things in there, these small little things, and then the RNG that people don't like, and just all of these systems that make the game less polished as time goes on. Like, it just makes it more clunky and more frustrating, and there's less longevity. And you see a game like the big behemoth World of Warcraft, they pretty much had the same system since they released. It reminds me of Apple. You see how Apple devices never have sales? They always sell their products at the exact same, why'd I say sell their products? They always sell their products at the same price all year long, all the time. They have deals in relation to like phone companies and stuff like services like AT&T and Verizon. They have deals with those people, but their devices do not change. They don't implement these crazy systems, and that's kind of the analogy I'm making with Blizzard. World of Warcraft, their system never changed. It's still subscription. They still have some extra items you can buy for money just to look cool with a little fancy mount that not everybody else has, because you have to pay only to get that mount. And you can get system-based things, like character makeovers or server transfers. Like, you can buy stuff like that, which is okay, but their system never changed. That's why they're working. Guild Wars 2, their system with gems and with money and gold, the system has been the exact same thing from the beginning of the company until now, and they are one of the most successful MMOs as far as profit margins go and as far as player base goes. Now, I don't know statistically if that's like 100% accurate. Some of you guys are probably going to call me out on that, but I see it as one of the big 3 MMOs currently, alongside World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV. What do you see in Final Fantasy XIV? The same system, much like World of Warcraft, with a subscription model and having to buy further expansions. It's the same thing. They stuck to it, and it works. Not because they see themselves as like greater than another company or anything like that. It's just they have one system that they know has been solid, done, tested, and proven before, and they're doing it the same way to an extent that's probably lesser. They have their own versions of it, but it works. Like, they know it works, and they just do it. They don't look at all of these failing MMOs and say, hey, it's a brilliant idea to go pay to win. We'll release items that make you 20% stronger in your stats. Like, it doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. If you're going to be original with your own system, much like Guild Wars 2 is, like, roll with it and do it, but don't screw over your players, man. Just do not mess that up, because it's not good for the longevity of your company. It's not good for the game. It's not good for players. It's not good for the MMO genre. It's just not good, period. Solid, tested MMOs are still, that are working. The big titles are the way they are because they've been doing the same thing since the get-go, and they stick to it no matter how many players complain that they can't subscribe or they can't afford subscriptions. The companies don't have to care, because they cater to so many players that one person who complains that they can't make $15 that month because their mom isn't letting them buy the game, like, when they hear that, they're like, oh, well, we still have 7-8 million other people that are playing the game just fine, being able to pay it monthly, and they still care about you, but it's just like, they're not going to change because of the 1% that doesn't roll with it, if that makes sense. And that, wow, that was a huge tangent about, like, I don't know, something that was almost irrelevant, I guess. I don't know, maybe it was relevant. But man, Revelation, if they just stick to their guns and they cater to the Western world in a cultural fashion that fits our way of playing the game, they're gonna have to run it differently from Revelation in China or Revelation in Russia. It has to be run differently because our culture here is a lot different, and we play games a lot differently than they do, especially when it comes to MMORPGs. And I'm sure some of my friends that are from other countries can completely agree. We just have 2 separate play styles, like, period. We enjoy different things or different systems of games, because that's why the Eastern MMOs don't usually work in the Western side of the world, because Eastern systems cater to Eastern players, and they try and bring the same system to Western players, and we're like, what the heck is this? Like, how do I use these chopsticks? We don't know how to use chopsticks. I actually know how to use chopsticks, don't worry guys. I actually love the Eastern culture. It's one of my favorite places. If I could vacation there every other week, I would. This isn't like a discriminatory thing by any means. I'm just saying different cultures have different rhythms. They use chopsticks, we use forks. They probably use forks over there. I don't know how the culture is 100%, but it's just like, we don't operate the same. Therefore, we cannot work and enjoy the MMO with the same system of business that they have in the Eastern side of the world. Like, it's just not gonna work. Maybe a twist on it, something that is the same idea with a new way of a Western philosophy over it may help. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but it's just not pay to win, and it's not anything like that, which a lot of Eastern MMOs really favor because they're fine with it. Like, they enjoy that in some games. Most of the games that I hear that are popular in the Eastern world tend to have systems like that in free-to-play games, and they, you know, it's how it runs there. But us, on the other hand, we stick to our guns with these subscription World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy and, you know, League of Legends. Well, League of Legends is big on the Eastern world too, so that was kind of a bad point. But you get the idea. Like, we're used to this, so we play games like this. Eastern games are used to Eastern systems, so they play with Eastern systems. Different cultures have different rhythms. So if NetEase wants to shift over to the West, they're going to have to listen to the player base heavily in order to succeed the most optimal way, in my opinion. That's what I think. So that kind of addresses a lot of the ideas. I mean, it's not everything, but that's all I got to say. I don't want to make this video an hour long. I think 20 minutes is sufficient. So thank you guys so much for watching. It means the world to me that you guys even come and check my channel out, that you're listening to this point of the video. It's indescribable, the feeling that it gives me, man. It makes me so happy that you guys are here right now. So definitely leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below what you think about this topic, and just share the word, man. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Wes for Show, and I'm signing out. Peace. Thanks, guys.